I want to jump on here quickly and ask, where did the homeless people go? And who's replacing who? And the reason I'm asking this is during the last few years, we've had a massive explosion of people who lost their jobs, lost their homes, migrating out to this area because mostly sunny days. And the traffic and the encampments just grew and grew. Now, they would come in every once in a while and sweep them out before, but once this moratorium hit, it just really bubbled. But where do they all go? Right now, most of the streets in this area are fairly clean. Even the trash has been cleaned up. And I noted that a lot of the signs that had tagging on it have been not just cleaned up, but completely replaced. But where did the people go? So we know that NGOs are making a huge amount of money off people. The more homeless, the more people they feed, the more food they get out, the more grants that they can collect, the more money they're making. And it's trillions. We can see the reports from openthebooks.org. It's massive. In fact, during the pandemic, we learned that the number one industry, beyond being a politician, of course, was supporting the unhoused, those who needed additional welfare support beyond the government. Any NGO that stepped in, whether it was some guy in his apartment saying that he was housing and feeding thousands of people, which clearly wasn't the case, to massive NGOs like Catholic Charities. They raked in significant donations, tax dollars, government support. It's massive, but where did all the people go? So it wasn't that long ago that I was noticing that if I went to a Walmart or a Home Depot, I was attacked. And I did a report on this at the time that it happened, and I believe it was a little over a month ago now. As I get there, there's 4 or 5 people that surround my car. I'd already heard from talking to the managers that they would get so aggressive if you didn't buy their oranges, which happened to be what they were selling at most of these locations. It was organized crime. They were out there on the streets with a supervisor, a manager, a car with the product, and little wheelie carts going car to car in groups to get you to buy. And if you didn't, windows were being cracked. People were being harassed. And yet when the managers of these locations reported that they would call for backup from the police would say that they can't do anything. These people are not documented, so they're not allowed to report them. They can't have those numbers on the books. Now, these are law-abiding police officers, right? Most of them live in the community. They want the best, and they couldn't do anything. There was an interesting story that came out over the weekend from California Insider, which is an Epoch Times YouTube channel, and they interviewed a past police officer from SFPD. It's absolutely disgusting what the defund police program has done. And this isn't people like you and I that voted it in. We didn't really vote for this. This is a movement that came in, whether propaganda got you to vote in that direction, or it didn't matter if your voice spoke up, because that was what was happening anyways. So in San Jose, we have massive amounts of funds that go towards homeless response. We're all human beings. We need to live somewhere. We need to thrive somewhere. There's a number of reasons why people become homeless, and many say it's because of mental illness or drugs. And as one of the YouTube channels pulled up, if you wake up on the streets every morning or under a bridge, maybe that's a path you're going to take, even if that's not a path you started with. Doesn't make it right. But at some point, people give up. But for many, mental illness may not have been the start. Drugs may not have been the start. How about not having a job or being part of a company that right sizes every few years? Starting at the bottom over and over again with no medical insurance, not even W-2, but just contract employment. At some point, people realize, wait a minute, I don't want to be a mouse in this wheel anymore. So there's a lot of factors that play into this. It's really from the initial stages of it that we need to look, find a solution. But I tell you, the NGOs are not the solution. And taking taxpayer funds to cover this is not the solution. and opening all the borders to take from those who are very, very much struggling and have been pushed down from a middle class already is not the solution. There's got to be a better way. But in the meantime, I ask once again, where have the people gone? These individuals that I talked about at Home Depot and Walmart, I haven't seen them in the last few weeks. In fact, when I asked the managers, they say they just kind of disappeared. But what's interesting, I'm now seeing white males in the spots asking for funds or food or help in any way they can. And that hadn't been the place for a long time because these are highly coveted locations. They're run by cartels. They put somebody there and manage it like a business. They know the profit centers and they will attack anybody that takes that corner. And yet, where did those people go? Here's an article I pulled up. I just put in the homeless bus ticket program. Now, we've known that this has been going on I first learned about it over 15 years ago. Approaching almost 20 years ago, I learned about it. When I worked for the City of San Jose Office of Economic Development, it was common knowledge that we bought bus tickets primarily to Modesto. Now, by we, I didn't, but that's what the homeless program would do. That's why it was so easy when the migrants needed transportation. The main cities that were already on board with these homeless programs and NGOs and shelters and charities just shifted to a different population, already had transportation lined up. So here it says homeless people can get help paying for bus tickets from various sources, such as shelters, social services organizations, charities, churches, and Greyhound. Greyhound has had a program called Buses for Us that provide free or discounted tickets to certain groups, including the homeless. This isn't a program that Greyhound provides for free. They're covered by taxpayer funds to do this in NGOs. Some organizations like Love Inc. and Salvation Army work with churches that help with Greyhound tickets or bus passes. Free bus passes are usually given for job-related or emergency travel. No, they're often given from the governments or Office of Economic Development divisions as pass-throughs through these organizations to have an arm's length distance in order to get rid of the people. And it was widely known. They would go for rides and often come back because they would get better services here and then they could get a bus ticket somewhere else. And this one, Migrants Replace Homeless, it states, and yet despite the crisis, homeless Americans are being displaced to house illegal immigrants. Where are the people going? Tension flared last fall in New York City when homeless Black Americans were removed from their shelter to be replaced by illegal aliens. We heard this at the border. A lot of the homeless shelters are now replaced with migrants. Migrants are also humans. They need a place to be. But if they have come into this country without the correct protocols and they're flooding our systems, kicking out those who have participated in the taxation and process and community does not make sense. It states here, I have no idea why we are being displaced for them. We are being moved and shuffled around. They're not blending in, they're disappearing. Where are the people going? This is well known. Now there's a video that came up here. Let me see if I want to make sure that one closes so we don't pull that up. But it's actually really interesting. It's on YouTube. It's by Kirsten Dirksen, and it was posted a month ago. It's called Trapped in Paradise. She goes pretty much van to van and interviews individuals who, for whatever reason, chosen or not chosen, but are currently living in situations that nobody would have listed as a dream life, but are making the best of it in very, very expensive areas. In this case, they're looking at both sides of the bridge of San Francisco, one over in Marin County, and then several in San Francisco. Many of these individuals have jobs, good paying jobs, and it's still not enough to survive on their own in their own home. Now, Taylor Street Homeless Project was massive. It's over by the airport, close to downtown San Jose. And I was hoping to get an image, and it looks like a lot of them have been swiped out. But there are constant fires there. This was a ballpark that they just completely took over for themselves. Very dangerous area to walk through even during the day. And yet it finally got cleaned out. In fact, so many of those individuals had RVs, and the RVs weren't driven there. NGOs went out and got broken down RVs from people throughout the city. They'd give $500 or just take it as a donation. And then they'd plop them on this spot. So they weren't going anywhere. Many of them didn't operate. And so when the homeless people moved, they were offered an amount of money for that to leave their RV behind, which got trashed. There was no other option for it. And the going rate was about $500. I'm sure that some were negotiated at different rates, but they got money to leave their home. But where did they go? There aren't enough shelters or solutions around here. Let's see. I think that's a little bit of the area. Corner of Taylor and Assembly. So this is a little bit different than the one I'm talking about. It was a dirt field, but they're massive. They're all over the place. So here we have, I talked about the Home Depots and the Walmarts. They were employing quite a bit of individuals through the back door, of course. But it's those that were harassing their own customers, and boy, I wouldn't go back. I certainly wouldn't take my child there. But as Walmart state that they're closing, are they turning into immigrant centers? I don't know. But are they housing just standard homeless, which is still a major solution in our country? We just don't know. So where are the missing people going? We see desaparecidos around the world in different cultures for different reasons. So if you have any answers as to where these individuals are going, we send them blessings. All people deserve the same rights. And no, unfortunately, a right to shelter, fresh air, and water has been long taken from us all. But a right to pursue happiness is still in our Constitution. And that's a God-given right, not a government-given right. So are these people in a happier space? Are they being shuffled around? Or where have they disappeared? I'd sure like to read some of the comments on this one. Blessings to you all.